There are also seizure triggers, and I definitely have those. There are lots of common ones. Flashing lights. Put on a strobe light, you will give me a seizure. Really loud noises. Not just like a boom, like one sound usually. Although, I have to take that back, because last year in May 2016, so not even a year ago, I went to a Lyme conference, and they were doing this healing thing. You know, they had all different kinds of people like showing products and selling things and information there, and they were doing this gong thing, and I was like, oh, I'll do it, the thing's free. You sit there, they do this gong, it's supposed to like help you with something, I don't even remember. They played that gong, and it was so loud, and the sound and the pitch of it, I think the pitch played a major role. Then after that, I started getting the aura of, okay, my hands are getting sweaty, I just feel like I'm going to have a seizure. And that's an aura in itself. Just the feeling of, and that's one that's extremely hard to explain, that you just have to have had a seizure and had to have this to get it, is you just have this innate feeling that I'm going to have a seizure. And the first time I had like a seizure that wasn't just a movement and that I was like out of it and unconscious for, was when my main aura was, I was actually sitting watching a ballet class. I was not dancing because I could not dance, but I was watching them, and I was watching them dance, and I just had this feeling like I am going to have a seizure. But I'm like, I've never had a seizure before, not knowing that the other seizures were seizures. But I just have this strange, like, gut feeling. Like, it's just one of those gut feelings that I'm going to have a seizure. And then I had that, like, weird feeling going through my blood. And I was like, Mom, we need to go in the car. And then I got in the car, and then I started, like, having a seizure. But I didn't say, like, Mom, I feel like I'm gonna have a seizure. It wasn't even, I feel like I'm gonna have a seizure. It was like, I'm going to have a seizure. But it's so strange that your body just knows, and it just tells you. And I was right, and I did have a seizure. So, flashing lights, loud noises, like going to a concert, overstimulation of a concert. Not good. The thing that people are surprised and confused and amazed by the most with seizure triggers for me is that I have a seizure trigger if you touch my back. Now, I literally just touched my back, and I'm not having a seizure. It does not happen when I touch my own back. If somebody else, ER doctors, accidentally touch my back, light touch. If a drape accidentally, like, brushes against my back, it causes atonic seizures. So that's the whole one when my whole body collapses. And I get like a brief jerk where your muscles tense up, and then they completely go the opposite way and become spaghetti, and then you collapse. So that's why on the back of my seizure helmet, my mom actually wrote in Sharpie, like on tape, do not touch back, with like arrows pointing down. How much does that help? I don't know. People like try to hug me and stuff, and I have to say no, because if they touch my back, especially down like my spinal area, like the center of my back, it causes an immediate atonic or drop seizure. It's the same thing. That happened 2 times when I was at my mom. She works at a gymnastics gym, and I was with her, and I used to do gymnastics until I was 14, if people didn't know that. My coach, who I now work with there when I can, but he was my coach when I was a gymnast, tapped me on the shoulder and just said, like, "Hey, how's it going?" And it wasn't even much of my back, like, just his fingers got over my back. And I said, "Oh, be careful, you can't touch my back. It causes seizures." And he was like, "Really? That causes..." And I explained it to him, and then within a couple minutes, I was like, "I'm not feeling good." And I started getting an aura, and then I went out into a seizure. Another time, another coach at gymnastics, we were about to leave, and I was putting on my coat or something, and he just did a "see you later," and again gave me a pat on the back. And I was on this really hard floor, unfortunately, and of course the gym is full of mats. I didn't happen to be on a mat at that time. I happened to be on the hard floor, and he just gave me a slight, "see you later," tap on the back like that, like happy-go-lucky, and my whole body just collapsed onto the hard floor, and he felt so bad, and that was really crazy. So touching my back is a really big one, so people have to be reminded that all the time, and that makes my life hard, because I'll be walking through the parking lot, and if someone walks by, I'm constantly looking over my shoulder, because I have to make sure they don't brush against me, or they don't tap me on my back to ask me a question, and everyone has to know, you can't touch my back, you can't hug me. The way people hug nicely, that's going to cause me a seizure. Sleep deprivation is a trigger. If I don't get a lot of sleep, I'm more likely to have a seizure. One other thing that triggers seizures and makes me more susceptible to seizures, and this is in general for girls, is with your hormones. When your hormones are changing and you're on your period, you're more likely to have a seizure if you're prone to seizures. So I have noticed that with myself. Or the week before your period, you're more likely to have a seizure. Also, if I get a cold and my immune system's a little down, then everything goes haywire and I'll have seizures. Getting sick, basically, can lead to seizures for me. One last quick thing that tells me that I'm most likely going to have a seizure is if I have a random small twitch. If I'm just sitting here with my mom watching TV or whatever, and I do a quick shoulder, chin to a shoulder thing, or a one arm, or a kind of a neck thing, or some kind of, I can't even do it, my eye will start twitching, or my mouth, if I make one like that, that means bigger things are to come. So I'll just have one twitch, that's all it takes, then it's B12 immediately. And then the seizure usually still comes, but the B12 lessens the time for most of them. What it's like to come out of a seizure? Hard question, because I'm usually not aware and not really conscious. Just because your eyes are open doesn't mean you're conscious. But I can tell you of experiences that I have had based on my mom telling me. Some are funny, some are like ridiculous, but you can be extremely emotional. So sometimes I come out of seizures crying for no reason, but just like really, really sad. And I don't remember that until my mom's like, oh yeah, you were crying out of your seizure or something. I usually don't remember that. It depends on how much I was out during the seizure, or if I was more conscious during the seizure, or if I was completely conscious during the seizure, but I could still just randomly start crying. It could be the complete opposite, and I could be hysterically laughing. And this is actually almost kind of not kind of creepy, it is creepy. My mom will say like, Cassidy, trying to get my attention. Of course, I'm like totally zoned out zombie, and I'll just start hysterically laughing. And then whatever she says, I'll start laughing. I'll try to get up and I'll start saying like ridiculous things, like picture someone coming out of surgery and having anesthesia and being all loopy. That's one way you can come out of a seizure. Oh, this is a good one. One thing that always happens to me when I come out of a seizure, again, doesn't matter what kind it is that I have a headache and my head hurts more. Again, I have a chronic headache, so it just means my headache hurts more. So I always have a headache. I always have to go to the bathroom after a seizure. And I also ask repetitive questions that, of course, I don't think are repetitive at the time. I'll ask, what time is it? What day is it? And I'm usually fixated on what time is it. Like, I have a desperate need to know what time is it right now. And I'll just be very confused and disoriented. I'll be emotional. Usually it's the emotional over the overjoy happy. But I have had both multiple times. So it's very interesting because you never know what's going to happen. Another new thing that's happened with my seizures is that we had to get a suctioning machine, basically because I was having a seizure once and my jaw got completely clamped shut. So you're supposed to put a person on their side during a seizure. So if they have saliva dripping out of their mouth, well, if they have saliva in their mouth, it can drip out. Now the problem is my jaw would clamp up. And my mom couldn't physically, she would be like this, and she couldn't open it. And saliva would be building up back here. And that's a big problem because if it goes down, I lose the ability to swallow sometimes during my seizures. So I can't just swallow my spit, or I would have. I can't spit it out because my jaw's clamped. Again, this depends on the seizure. The last couple seizures I've had, this hasn't happened. So it hasn't happened in a while. I think it's happened like 3 times total as of now. But it'll go down and I'll start choking. And then, but there's no way to get into my mouth. So we had to get a suctioning machine, and my mom can't go anywhere without bringing the suctioning machine. That's been a major thing because if my jaw decides it's going to clamp during that seizure, we could be in for a problem. One thing that I do to help prevent seizures, besides my seizure medication, which, by the way, just because I take seizure medication doesn't mean that my seizures are supposed to be 100% gone. Yes, that would be absolutely wonderful, but my doctors have told me from the very beginning that these drugs are to help lessen your seizures. They could stop them completely. That would be fantastic, but there's not a guarantee of that. So I knew going into that instead of having 10 seizures, maybe I'll have 3. Maybe I'll have 9. Maybe we need to play around with the medication. So I definitely haven't been seizure free just because I've been taking seizure medication. But gosh, I am way better than without it, because without the medicine that I'm taking, I was in the hospital for 8 days, not able to swallow because of the seizure. And the other thing I do is take the B12 shots. Again, I have multiple videos on this channel that show the B12 shots and show me how I do it and just show me doing them. I do a daily B12 shot, and when I'm having a seizure or when I'm having an aura, if I'm still with it and I'm like, I can still do this, I'm not feeling well, I'm gonna have a seizure, but I got this, I give myself the B12 emergency seizure B12 shot in my thigh. If I go out of it too fast and I'm not there, then my mom has to do it because I obviously can't do it, and she does it right here in like my shoulder. I also have a video of me doing it in my shoulder to myself, which I wasn't sure if that was possible because with like one hand and not being able to grab with the other hand, but it is possible. Those have not stopped my seizures, but they have lessened the length of my seizures. For the most part, I can still have seizures that last 2 hours long. I used to have seizures that would be 5 hours long and still like linger and not go away. But the B12, I'd say like 80% of the time, shorten them to maybe a half an hour, 20 minutes, something like that, instead of going on for hours. 2 thumbs up for my Lyme doctor for the B12 shots. They do not hurt if you do them right, and I definitely notice a difference, and my mom notices a difference with my seizures, even though I still have them. It's very interesting, like it's really complicated, but I've learned like so much about my body and like have learned my body signals. The lovely Bauer hockey helmet has come to fantastic use. It is amazing, and if anyone watching this video has seizures or knows someone who has seizures, I looked up like best helmets for seizures, and hockey helmet, especially Bauer brand, just player helmet, obviously go to a store and get a helmet that fits you because that's important, was like one of the top ones for seizures. Just a lot of things in this video, so feel free to comment down below any questions that you have. I am more than welcome to answer them.